My grandmother said family secrets stay hidden. My brother made sure this one didn't. The text message from my younger brother came at 2:47 a.m. on a Thursday morning. Found something in the attic. We need to talk. Now. I stared at my phone screen, my heart already racing before I even knew why. Daniel was 16, careful with words, never dramatic. If he said now, he meant it. I'd been living in my studio apartment across town for 3 years, ever since I turned 21. Small, cramped, but mine. A place where I could lock the door and know I was safe. Where I didn't have to attend Sunday dinners at grandmother's house and pretend everything was normal. Where I didn't have to see Grandfather Leonard sitting in his leather chair, smiling at me like he hadn't spent years destroying who I used to be. My hands shook as I texted back. What did you find? 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Then just, your old journals. All of them. Please come. I grabbed my keys, not bothering to change out of my sleep clothes. The drive to our childhood home took 15 minutes, but felt like hours. Every red light was torture. Every empty street a reminder of all those nights I'd wished I could run away but had nowhere to go. Daniel was sitting on the front porch when I pulled up, a cardboard box beside him. Even in the dim porch light, I could see his face was pale, his jaw clenched in that way that meant he was trying not to cry. He'd gotten tall in the past year, almost 6 feet now. But sitting there with his knees pulled up, he looked like the little kid who used to ask me to check his closet for monsters. I'd never told him the real monsters don't hide in closets. They were in the crawl space behind the Christmas decorations, he said without greeting, his voice hollow. I was looking for my old baseball cards. Found these instead. He pushed the box toward me with his foot, like he couldn't bear to touch it anymore. I recognized my handwriting on the notebooks immediately. Purple gel pen on the first one, the kind I'd used in middle school. I'd thought these were long gone, thrown away, destroyed. Did you read them? My voice came out as a whisper. Daniel nodded slowly, and a tear finally escaped down his cheek. I'm sorry. I didn't know what they were at first. I just started reading, and then I couldn't stop, and I just kept thinking this can't be real. This can't have happened to you, but it's all there in your handwriting and the dates and everything matches up. He was talking fast now, words tumbling over each other. Why didn't you tell anyone? Why didn't Mom and Dad do something? How could Grandma know and just... Wait, I cut him off, my stomach dropping. What do you mean Grandma knew? Daniel reached into the box and pulled out a letter, his hands trembling. The paper was old, creased from being folded and unfolded many times. I recognized my mother's stationery. It was tucked in the last journal, from Mom to Grandma, dated 8 years ago. He handed it to me, and I had to sit down on the porch steps to read it. The letter was short, clinical almost in its detachment. Mom wrote that she'd found my journals, that she'd read what Grandfather Leonard had been doing to me, that she was bringing them to show Grandma because this needs to stop. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the paper. I'd never known she found them. She never said a word to me, never asked if I was okay, never got me away from him. Grandma's response was paper-clipped to the back, written in her precise, old-fashioned cursive. These are the confused writings of a troubled teenage girl seeking attention. Leonard has been nothing but a devoted grandfather. I will not have you destroy this family with such vicious lies. The journals will be stored away, and we will never speak of this again. If you truly love your daughter, you'll get her the psychiatric help she clearly needs and stop encouraging these fantasies. I couldn't breathe. The porch seemed to tilt beneath me. All these years I thought I'd kept the secret locked away. But my mother had known, had gone to Grandma for help, and Grandma had chosen Grandfather Leonard, had called me a liar, had hidden the evidence away like dirty laundry that just needed to stay out of sight. Daniel was crying openly now, not bothering to wipe his face. There's more, he said quietly. Keep reading. The next pages were copies of emails, printed and dated over the years. Mom writing to Grandma every few months, begging her to reconsider, saying I was getting worse, that I'd started cutting myself, that I'd dropped out of college twice, that I was drinking too much. Each email met with the same response from Grandma. Stop dwelling on the past. The girl needs to move forward. Leonard is old and sick now anyway. Let sleeping dogs lie. The last email was from 6 months ago, after I'd overdosed on sleeping pills and spent 3 days in the psychiatric ward. I didn't know you tried to kill yourself, Daniel said, his voice breaking. No one told me you were in the hospital. They said you had the flu. I wanted to lie, to protect him the way I'd always tried to protect him from the ugliness in our family. But he'd read everything now. He knew. I did it in Grandfather's bathroom, I heard myself say, during Christmas dinner. I wanted him to find me. I wanted him to see what he'd done. I laughed, but it sounded wrong, jagged. But Grandma found me instead, called the ambulance, then made Mom tell everyone it was food poisoning. Daniel was staring at me with such horror and pain that I wanted to take it all back, stuff the words back in my mouth. How are you so calm right now? He asked. How are you not screaming? I shrugged, pulling my cardigan tighter around myself even though the night was warm. I screamed for years. No one listened. You get tired. I looked at the box of journals, my whole painful history packed away in cardboard. Why did you call me here, Danny? What do you want me to do? I want you to let me make this right, he said. And there was something in his voice I'd never heard before. Something hard and determined. There's a family reunion on Sunday. Everyone will be there. Grandma's making her big announcement about the family trust or whatever. Everyone has to come. He pulled out his phone, and I saw he'd been taking photos of the journal pages, the letters, everything. I'm going to show them all. Every single person in that house is going to know what Leonard did to you and what Grandma did to cover it up. My first instinct was to stop him, to protect him from the fallout. Danny, no. You don't understand what you're starting. Grandma will destroy you. She'll turn everyone against you. The family will never forgive you for airing this out. But even as I said it, I felt something stirring in my chest. Something I hadn't felt in years. Hope, maybe. Or just exhaustion with carrying this alone. I don't care, Daniel said fiercely. Let them hate me. Let them all choose his side like they always do. But they're going to know the truth first. They're going to see what he did to you in your own words, and they're going to know that Grandma knew and did nothing. He stood up, pacing the porch now, his teenage awkwardness replaced by something older, angrier. Do you know why I went looking in the attic? Grandma asked me to babysit cousin Whitney on Saturday nights. She's 8, same age you were when it started, according to your journals. My blood went cold. Whitney was Uncle Frank's daughter, sweet and trusting and always climbing into Grandfather Leonard's lap at family gatherings. She doesn't need babysitting, I said slowly, my mind racing. Her parents are always home on weekends. Exactly, Daniel said. But Grandma called Mom last week, said it would be good for me to earn some extra money, that Leonard and she could use a break from watching her during family dinners, that Whitney's parents could have some alone time while I kept her entertained in the guest room. The guest room. The same room where it had happened to me, where the lock didn't work and Grandfather would slip in after everyone else was watching TV, saying he just wanted to tell me goodnight, that this was our special time, that good girls don't tell secrets. She's setting it up again, I whispered. She's giving him access to another little girl. Daniel nodded, his face twisted with disgust. I told Mom I couldn't do it, made up some excuse about having too much homework. But what about next time? What about when I'm away at college next year? What if Whitney is already... He couldn't finish the sentence. Neither could I. The thought of it happening to someone else, to that little girl with her gap-toothed smile and her princess backpack, made me want to vomit right there on the porch. Sunday, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. You said there's a family gathering Sunday? Daniel nodded eagerly, sensing my shift. Everyone has to be there. Grandma's announcement about updating the family trust, dividing up Grandfather's estate before he dies. All the aunts and uncles are coming, all the cousins. She wants it to be this big formal thing. A plan was forming in my mind, terrible and necessary. Okay, but we do this right. We need more than just my journals and some old letters. Over the next 3 days, Daniel and I became investigators. We started with my mother's computer while she was at work. Daniel was better with technology, knew how to recover deleted emails, how to search through years of digital history. We found dozens more messages between my mother and grandmother, a whole hidden correspondence about the situation with Melissa. In one email chain, my mother threatened to go to the police. Grandma's response was cold. And destroy your father's reputation? Kill him with the stress and shame? He's already weak from the stroke. Do you want to murder your own father? My mother had backed down, chosen her father over her daughter. The betrayal was written there in plain text, dated and time-stamped. Daniel found something else too, a thread from my mother to my father, arguing about what to do about me. Dad had wanted to confront Grandfather. Mom had talked him out of it, said it would tear the family apart, that I was already in therapy, that bringing it up again would only traumatize Melissa more. My father had eventually agreed to keep quiet for my sake, believing my mother that silence was protection. I called my old therapist, Dr. Patricia Chen. No, wait, not Chen. Dr. Patricia Winters. I'd stopped seeing her 2 years ago when my insurance ran out, but she'd always told me to reach out if I needed her. Melissa, she said warmly when she answered. It's been too long. How are you? I told her everything, the words spilling out in a rush, about Daniel finding the journals, about the family reunion, about Whitney, about wanting to finally tell the truth to everyone at once. There was a long pause after I finished. What you're describing sounds like you're planning a confrontation with your entire family present, Dr. Winters said carefully. That's a very high-stress situation. Are you sure you're ready for that kind of exposure? I'm not ready, I admitted, but I can't let it happen to Whitney. I can't live knowing I stayed quiet and another little girl got hurt. Dr. Winters was quiet for another moment, and I could almost hear her weighing ethics against reality, professional distance against genuine concern. If you're determined to do this, you need support, not just your brother. You need other people in that room who are on your side, who won't let your family gaslight you or shut you down. She paused. Would you be willing to let me come? As your therapist, I can speak to what I observed during our sessions, corroborate the trauma symptoms, provide professional context. I hadn't expected that offer. Therapists didn't usually show up at family interventions. Would that be allowed? Ethically, I mean? I asked. You're not my patient anymore. Our therapeutic relationship ended 2 years ago, and you're inviting me to a private family gathering of your own free will, Dr. Winters said. I wouldn't be violating any confidentiality because you're asking me to speak on your behalf. And honestly, Melissa, I've been waiting years for you to be ready to confront this. I have documentation from our sessions, treatment notes about the abuse disclosures, your PTSD symptoms, everything. If you want to present the truth, let's present all of it. Daniel was thrilled when I told him Dr. Winters was coming. That makes it more official, he said. They can't just dismiss it as old journals and teenage drama if a professional therapist backs you up. But I needed more than professional validation. I needed someone from the family to stand with us, someone whose voice would matter. I thought about my cousin Bethany, Aunt Carol's daughter. She was 28, married, had always been kind to me even when the rest of the family treated me like the black sheep. She'd asked me once years ago why I never came around anymore. I'd deflected, changed the subject. But she'd looked at me with knowing eyes. I messaged her late Wednesday night. Can we meet for coffee? There's something I need to talk to you about before Sunday's gathering. She agreed immediately, which felt significant. We met Thursday afternoon at a cafe halfway between our homes. Bethany looked tired, drawn in a way I hadn't seen before. We made small talk for a few minutes, dancing around the real conversation. Finally, I just said it. Did Grandfather Leonard ever touch you? Her coffee cup stopped halfway to her mouth. Her face went white. How did you know? The relief that flooded through me was immediately followed by crushing guilt. I wasn't alone, but that meant someone else had suffered too. I have journals, I said quietly. From when I was a kid, Daniel found them. It happened to me for years. Bethany set her cup down with shaking hands. It was only twice for me, she whispered. I was 12. During that summer, I stayed with them while my parents were getting divorced. He came into the guest room at night, said he was comforting me, that I needed a father figure. The second time, I locked the door. He got angry, told Grandma I was being disrespectful and difficult. She punished me, took away my phone for a week for excluding family. Did you tell anyone? I asked, though I already knew the answer. Bethany shook her head. I tried to tell my mom. She said I misunderstood, that Grandfather was just being affectionate in an old-fashioned way, that I was being oversensitive because of the divorce stress. The same script, the same dismissal, the same protection of Leonard at the cost of little girls. There's going to be a confrontation at Sunday's dinner, I told her. Daniel is planning to show everyone my journals, the letters from my mom to Grandma, everything. Dr. Winters is coming to provide professional context. I wanted you to know beforehand, and I wanted to ask if you'd be willing to speak up too. Tell them what happened to you. Bethany was crying now, silent tears running down her face. I have a daughter, she said. She's 5. Grandma keeps asking when she can have sleepovers at their house. I keep making excuses, saying she's too young, that she doesn't sleep well away from home. But eventually, I'm going to run out of excuses. She looked at me with desperate eyes. I've been terrified for months. I don't know how to protect her without telling everyone why. And if I tell everyone why, the family will never forgive me. They'll say I'm making things up, that I'm trying to hurt Grandfather in his old age. So we tell them together, I said. Multiple victims, multiple time periods, professional documentation. They can't dismiss all of us. Bethany wiped her eyes, and I saw something shift in her expression. The same thing I'd seen in Daniel's face on the porch. Determination. Anger. Enough. Okay, she said. I'll do it. For my daughter. So she never has to make excuses about why she can't visit her great-grandfather. We spent the next hour coordinating, planning. Bethany had her own evidence, she admitted. Text messages with her mother, where she'd tried again as an adult to talk about what Leonard had done. Her mother's responses were all there in writing, telling her to let it go, that bringing up the past helps no one. Sunday arrived with cruel sunshine, the kind of beautiful spring day that seemed designed to mock serious occasions. I'd barely slept, running through every possible scenario. What if everyone sided with Grandma? What if they threw us out before we could say anything? What if Grandfather Leonard had a heart attack from the stress, and I became the granddaughter who killed her grandfather? Dr. Winters picked me up at noon, looking professional and calm in a way I envied. Remember, she said as we drove toward my grandmother's house, you're not doing anything wrong. You're telling the truth. Whatever happens after that is other people's responsibility, not yours. Daniel had texted me updates throughout the morning. Everyone was arriving on schedule. Aunt Carol and Uncle Frank with Bethany and little Whitney, Uncle James and Aunt Patricia with their 3 teenage sons. My parents, looking strained. Grandma fluttering around, making sure everything was perfect for her big trust announcement. Grandfather Leonard was set up in his chair in the living room, oxygen tube in place, holding court while everyone fussed over him. The frail old man act, the dying patriarch routine. I'd seen it before, the way he played up his weakness to garner sympathy and deflect any criticism. We arrived at 2 p.m., just as Grandma had requested in her formal email invitation. The house looked the same as it always had, meticulously maintained, full of antique furniture and family photos that told a story of perfect suburban happiness. Dr. Winters carried a leather portfolio, the kind lawyers use. Inside were copies of her session notes, my documented PTD diagnosis, her professional assessment of my trauma history, evidence that couldn't be dismissed as the confused writings of a troubled teen. Grandma answered the door, her smile freezing when she saw Dr. Winters with me. Melissa, you didn't mention you were bringing a guest? This is Dr. Winters, my therapist, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. She has information relevant to today's family discussion. Grandma's eyes narrowed, but years of social conditioning made her step aside. Of course. Everyone is in the living room. We're about to begin. The walk down that familiar hallway felt like walking to an execution. My execution, probably. Every face turned toward us as we entered. I saw my mother's expression shift from surprise to horror when she realized who Dr. Winters must be. My father looked confused but concerned. Grandfather Leonard didn't even glance our way, too busy laughing at something Uncle James had said. Daniel was standing near the fireplace, his phone in his hand, his face pale but determined. He caught my eye and nodded slightly. Ready. Bethany was sitting on the sofa with Whitney, who was coloring in a princess book, oblivious to the tension crackling through the room. When Bethany saw me, she stood up slowly, and I saw her hands were shaking. But she walked over to stand beside Daniel, united front. Grandma clapped her hands together, calling everyone to attention. Thank you all for coming. As you know, Leonard and I wanted to discuss updating the family trust. But first, let's have some refreshments. I've made my special lemon bars and... Actually, Grandma, we need to talk about something else first. Daniel interrupted, his voice carrying across the room. Every head swiveled toward him. Grandma's smile turned brittle. Daniel, dear, this isn't the time for... Yes, it is, he said firmly. It's long past time, actually. He looked at me, and I nodded. This was it. No going back. 8 years ago, Melissa wrote in her journals about being sexually abused by Grandfather Leonard. She was 14 when it started. It continued for 3 years. Mom found the journals and brought them to Grandma, asking for help. Grandma called Melissa a liar and hid the evidence away. The silence that followed was absolute. You could hear the clock ticking on the mantel, someone's breathing, the distant sound of a car passing outside. Then everyone started talking at once, voices rising in shock and denial and confusion. "That's enough!" Grandma's voice cut through the chaos like a whip. "I will not have these vicious lies spoken in my home. Daniel, I don't know what's gotten into you, but this is completely inappropriate." "It's not a lie," Bethany said quietly, but somehow her voice carried. "He did it to me too, when I was 12, during the summer of my parents' divorce." More silence, somehow deeper and more terrible than before. Aunt Carol made a strangled sound. Uncle Frank was staring at his daughter like he'd never seen her before. "Bethany, what are you saying?" her mother whispered. "I'm saying that Grandfather Leonard molested me," Bethany said, louder now, her voice gaining strength. "Twice, in the guest room. I tried to tell you at the time, Mom. You told me I was misunderstanding affection, that I was being oversensitive." Aunt Carol's face had gone ashen. I don't remember that. Bethany, are you sure? You were so stressed from the divorce." "I'm sure," Bethany said coldly. "Just like I'm sure that I've been making excuses for 2 years about why Whitney can't have sleepovers here. Just like I'm sure that every time Grandma asks when she can babysit my daughter alone, I feel sick to my stomach." She looked at Whitney, still innocently coloring, and her voice broke. "I won't let it happen to her. I won't be the mother who chooses protecting a predator over protecting her child. This is outrageous!" Grandfather Leonard wheezed from his chair, playing up the frailty. "I'm a dying old man, and these girls are trying to destroy me with false accusations. It's elder abuse." "Is it?" Dr. Winters spoke for the first time, her voice professional and calm. "Because I have 8 years of therapy notes documenting Melissa's trauma, her PTSD symptoms, her nightmares, her self-harm, her suicide attempt, all consistent with childhood sexual abuse, all pointing to you, Mr. Leonard." She opened her portfolio and began pulling out papers. "I have her intake assessment from when she first came to me at 16, describing in detail the abuse that started when she was 11. I have session notes about her panic attacks whenever she had to attend family gatherings. I have my clinical assessment that she shows all the markers of childhood sexual trauma, including dissociation, hypervigilance, and complex PTSD." Grandma tried to interrupt, but Dr. Winters kept talking, her voice never rising but somehow impossible to talk over. "I also have correspondence that Daniel found, letters between Melissa's mother and grandmother, where the abuse was disclosed and dismissed, where a mother reached out for help protecting her daughter and was told to keep quiet to preserve the family image." She turned to look directly at my mother. "Mrs. Patterson, you knew. You read your daughter's journals 8 years ago. You knew what your father was doing to her, and you did nothing." My mother stood up, her face blotchy and tears streaming down. "I was trying to protect her." Mama said bringing it up would only make it worse, that Melissa needed to move past it, that dragging it all out would traumatize her more. "Protecting her would have been getting her away from her abuser," Dr. Winters said quietly. "Protecting her would have been believing her. Protecting her would have been putting her safety above your father's reputation." She looked around the room at all the shocked faces. "Instead, Melissa has spent the last 8 years thinking she was alone, thinking no one believed her, attempting suicide because the trauma was unbearable and she had no support." "This is absurd," Grandma said, but her voice was shaking now. "You're a therapist. You're supposed to maintain confidentiality. This is a violation of ethics. Melissa is no longer my patient. Our therapeutic relationship ended 2 years ago, and she specifically asked me to be here to provide my professional assessment," Dr. Winters replied smoothly. "There's no ethical violation. What there is, however, is a pattern of institutional family failure to protect children from a known predator." She pulled out more papers. "I've also filed a mandatory report with Child Protective Services regarding Whitney. Given that there are now 2 disclosed victims and a family pattern of silencing victims, CPS will be investigating whether it's safe for Leonard to have access to minor children." Uncle Frank erupted out of his chair. "You reported us to CPS? Over ancient history and accusations? Over documented child sexual abuse and current risk to a minor," Dr. Winters corrected calmly. "Yes, because that's what the law requires. And honestly, sir, you should be thanking me. If something had happened to your daughter because no one warned you, how would you feel?" She let that sit for a moment. "Now you know. Now you can protect her." "That's more than Melissa got." Grandfather Leonard made a gurgling sound and clutched at his chest. Everyone rushed toward him, and for a moment I thought he really was having a heart attack. But Dr. Winters didn't move. "He's faking," she said quietly. "Classic deflection behavior when abusers are confronted. Watch." Sure enough, after a moment of chaos and no one calling 911, Grandfather Leonard's attack subsided. He sat back in his chair, glaring at all of us with pure hatred. The frail old man mask completely dropped. "Ungrateful bitches," he snarled, his voice suddenly strong and vicious. "I gave you everything. I paid for your schools, your clothes, your lives, and this is how you repay me? With lies and betrayal?" "You didn't give us anything," I said, finding my voice for the first time since entering the room. You took our innocence, our sense of safety, our ability to trust. You took our childhoods and twisted them into something dirty and shameful. And then you made us keep your secrets while you played the beloved grandfather." I walked closer to his chair, and I saw fear flicker in his eyes for just a second. "Good. I tried to kill myself in your bathroom during Christmas dinner," I said conversationally, like I was discussing the weather. "Did Grandma tell you that? I wanted you to find me. I wanted you to see what you'd done. But even that got covered up, turned into food poisoning, because protecting you was more important than saving me." I leaned down so we were eye to eye. "But I'm not dead. I'm still here, and I'm done keeping your secrets." Grandma made a move toward me, but Daniel stepped between us. Don't, he said simply. Don't touch her. Don't defend him. Don't say one more word about family loyalty or keeping secrets. He pulled out his phone, and suddenly the TV screen behind Grandfather Leonard lit up. Daniel had connected wirelessly, and now images of my journal pages filled the screen. My teenage handwriting, messy and desperate, describing exactly what Grandfather had done, the dates, the details, the begging for it to stop. Everyone in this room is going to read every page, Daniel said, his voice hard. Every single word that Melissa wrote when she was a child being abused by that man. And then you're all going to decide what kind of family you want to be. The kind that protects children, or the kind that protects predators. Pages flipped across the screen, damning and detailed. I saw my cousin Andrew reading intently, his face going from skeptical to horrified. I saw Aunt Patricia crying, her hands over her mouth. I saw my father standing frozen, his face a mask of guilt and pain. Uncle James had moved to stand between Grandfather Leonard and little Whitney, physically blocking access. That one gesture, that one man deciding in real time to protect a child, made something in my chest crack open. Daniel had included the letters too, and now everyone could read my mother begging Grandma for help, and Grandma's cold responses about protecting the family name. They could see it all laid out in black and white, no room for misinterpretation or gaslighting. The evidence was overwhelming and irrefutable. "I'm calling the police," Uncle Frank said suddenly, pulling out his phone. Grandma lunged toward him. "You will do no such thing! This is a private family matter." "A private family matter?" Frank repeated incredulously. "Your husband molested at least 2 of his granddaughters that we know of. You covered it up for years, and you think this is private? If what these girls are saying is true, it is true," Bethany said firmly. "Every word. And Mom, I know you don't want to believe it. I know it's easier to think we're confused or lying, but I need you to choose right now. Do you believe me, or do you believe him?" Aunt Carol looked between her daughter and her father, her face crumpling. "I don't, Bethany, he's my father. How can you not?" Bethany shouted. "I'm your daughter. I'm telling you that your father sexually abused me, and you're worried about his feelings." She pointed at Whitney. "That's your granddaughter. She's the same age I was. Do you want her to be next? Do you want to be sitting here in 20 years having this same conversation with her while you explain why you didn't protect her?" Something shifted in Aunt Carol's face. She looked at Whitney, really looked at her, and I saw the moment she understood, the moment she chose. She walked to Bethany and pulled her into a fierce hug. "I believe you," she whispered. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I believe you." Uncle Frank was already talking to 911, giving them the address, explaining the situation. Grandma was screaming now, a high keening sound, saying we'd killed her husband, that the stress would kill him, that we were murderers. But Grandfather Leonard wasn't having a heart attack. He was sitting in his chair, his face twisted with rage, finally seeing that his protection was crumbling. "You've ruined everything," he spat at me. "You were always a difficult child. Needy. Attention-seeking. I was good to you, and this is how you repay me? I should have—" He stopped himself, but we all heard what he didn't say. Should have what? Finished the job? Hurt me worse? Made sure I never told? My father moved then, faster than I'd ever seen him move. He grabbed Grandfather Leonard by the collar and hauled him half out of his chair. "You should have what?" my father growled. "What exactly should you have done to my daughter, you sick son of a bitch?" My mother was screaming at him to stop, that he'd hurt him, but my father didn't let go. "I trusted you with her. I left her in your care because you were her grandfather, because families are supposed to protect each other. And all this time you were—" He couldn't finish, just shoved Leonard back into the chair with disgust. Dr. Winters placed a gentle hand on my father's arm. "The police are coming. Let them handle it." She looked at my father with something like sympathy. "You didn't know. Your wife kept it from you too. There's a lot of blame to go around here. But right now, what matters is making sure the truth is finally out and no more children are at risk." The police arrived with surprising speed. 2 officers who looked young and uncomfortable with what was clearly a messy family situation. But Uncle Frank had been smart in his call, had mentioned child sexual abuse and current risk to a minor. That got them there fast and with the right mindset. Daniel showed them everything. The journals, the letters, Dr. Winters' documentation. Bethany gave her statement, her voice steady, even as tears ran down her face. I gave mine too, all the details I'd kept buried for so many years. The officers took notes, their expressions growing grimmer. One of them went to talk to Grandfather Leonard, read him his rights. He tried the frail old man act again, wheezing about his oxygen, his medications, how he couldn't possibly be arrested in his condition. The officer was unmoved. "You can be arrested here or at the hospital after you're medically cleared. Your choice." Grandma was threatening to sue everyone. The police for harassment, Dr. Winters for defamation, me and Daniel and Bethany for slander. "She was going to destroy our lives," she screamed. "Going to make sure we never got another penny from the family. Going to turn everyone against us." "You already turned everyone against me," I said quietly. "You did that 8 years ago when you called me a liar, when you chose him over me. The only difference now is that everyone knows what you chose." An ambulance arrived to transport Grandfather Leonard to the hospital for clearance before booking. As the paramedics wheeled him out, he looked at me one last time. "You'll regret this," he said. "You'll wish you'd kept quiet." "I've regretted a lot of things," I replied. Staying quiet was one of them. Speaking up won't be. The house emptied out slowly after that, family members leaving in stunned silence or angry groups. My parents tried to approach me, but I wasn't ready for that conversation yet. The police said they'd be in touch, that CPS would be conducting interviews, that there would be a full investigation. Dr. Winters drove me home, neither of us speaking much. What was there to say? I'd just blown up my entire family. destroyed decades of carefully maintained secrets, revealed the rot at the center of everything. When we pulled up to my apartment, she finally spoke. "How are you feeling?" I thought about it. Like I can breathe for the first time in 8 years. The fallout was massive and messy. Grandfather Leonard was arrested once he was medically cleared, charged with multiple counts of child molestation. Grandma hired an expensive lawyer, tried to get the charges dismissed as ancient history, but having 2 victims and documented cover-ups made that impossible. The case made local news, respected local businessman accused of decades of child abuse. The family imploded spectacularly, half taking Grandma's side and insisting we were destroying a dying old man, half finally seeing the truth and being horrified they'd enabled it for so long. My mother had a complete breakdown, admitted to a psychiatric facility for a week. When she got out, she tried to apologize, sobbing about how she'd thought she was protecting me, how Grandma had convinced her that bringing it up would only traumatize me more, how she'd made a terrible mistake. I listened, but I couldn't forgive her yet. Maybe someday. Not yet. My father filed for divorce. He'd been kept in the dark about everything, and when he learned that my mother had known for years and said nothing, something broke in him that couldn't be fixed. He apologized to me over and over, saying if he'd known, if he'd had any idea, he would have gone to the police immediately. I believed him. It was one of the few things I was certain of. Daniel became something of a hero in my eyes, though he shrugged off the praise. "I just did what should have been done years ago," he said. "I found the truth, and I made sure people couldn't ignore it anymore." He was accepted to college in the fall with a full scholarship, planning to study criminal justice. "I want to help other kids who aren't believed," he told me. "I want to make sure families can't just hide this stuff away." Bethany and I became close, bonded by shared trauma and the knowledge that we'd survived. Her mother eventually came around, chose to believe her daughter, and cut off contact with Grandma and Grandfather. Uncle Frank became a fierce advocate, started speaking out about believing victims and the importance of protecting children even when it's uncomfortable. Little Whitney, blessedly, was spared. The investigation confirmed she'd never been alone with Grandfather Leonard, her parents always hovering close at family gatherings without really knowing why they felt that need to protect her. Instinct, maybe, or some subconscious awareness that something wasn't right. Grandfather Leonard took a plea deal eventually, his lawyer knowing they'd lose at trial with 2 victims, professional documentation, and written evidence of cover-up. 5 years in prison, though at his age and health, he'd likely die there. Grandma never forgave any of us. She died 2 years later, bitter and alone, still insisting to the end that we'd destroyed the family with our lies. If you want more stories, make sure to subscribe and leave your take below.